I like that she's always trying to do the right thing, and that's what makes it fun to play, is the conflict between her head and her heart. And I like that she's always, her heart's in the right place, and she is trying to get by as best she can in this quite sort of strange world where she's always having her life in danger all the time. She can explode a bit more this series as well, which I quite like. Last series she was always normally quite sweet and quite seemingly innocent, but then this series she kind of has a bit more fire in her belly. Various things happen that mean that she has no choice but to react. It's about when she can't not hold it in, because she's repressing so much of the time. Sometimes the situation is just too great that she's got to let it out somewhere. Queen Anne has really strong values, and that's what is really fun to play. Is her sort of through line throughout, no matter what happens to her, is always she's sort of brave and loyal. And even though in the last series she wasn't always loyal to the king, but she's loyal to France and her dedication to her job and her role as the queen. And I kind of respect that in her, and her kind of efficiency and her quiet inner strength. And she's soft but can also be really hard. Being both of those things at the same time is something I really like about her. The relationship with the king, on and off screen, will always be dramatic. It's great. It's a very complicated relationship because they've known each other for so long, and she does love him, and being Queen of France is so important to her, and fulfilling her role as wife and fulfilling her duty. Duty is everything. Before she was very much felt unloved, like love wasn't really part of her existence, and that was very sad for her. And now she sort of has had this taste of relationship with Aramis. It's almost more hard being in the relationship with the king because it's more complex now, because she feels guilty that she's betraying her duty to him as a wife, but she also can't fully suppress these desires now it's been awakened in her. Yeah, the scene we just shot, yeah, the king quite tactlessly made MILADY play out me being eclipsed by her, which I think more than anything, it doesn't really upset her, because things like this don't surprise her anymore from the king, because she's so used to these little put downs all the time, and she's so unsurprised by it. But it's just a resentment and a kind of anger and frustration at the whole situation. How she seems on the outside to everyone else is quite important to her, so being undermined in that way, it does get to her. It really gets to her. I don't know whether it's intentional. He's unempathetic, doesn't think about anyone else other than himself. He thinks that's okay. He thinks like, well, if it's quite obvious we don't love each other, we've got the son now, we've had the Dauphin, and that was what was important, and so now we can just get on with playing these roles. I think it's just the injustice of him being able to have it all and her not being able to have it all. That's what gets to her. Her relationship with Aramis has affected her hugely on the inside, but on the outside she still has to live her life and try and forget about it. So she's almost more tortured this series than she was last series, because last series it was just a sort of flirtation, whereas this series she's really fallen from him, but there's nothing she can do. So she's had all that time between having the baby and not being able to see him, or very rarely. And what drives her mad is when the king can have an affair openly, and because she always does try to do the right thing, that she wouldn't feel like she could do that. So she's torn and she's in more conflict, whereas the king he's like, I don't love you, I'll have an affair, whereas she doesn't feel like she can do that.